How would you describe your leadership style?
I describe my leadership style as collaborative but decisive. I believe in empowering my team to contribute ideas and take ownership, but I also know when to make a firm decision to keep things moving. For example, in my previous role as operations manager, I involved my team in identifying process improvements. Once we gathered input, I made a clear plan with deadlines and accountability. This balance helped boost engagement and efficiency. We cut process time by 18% in 3 months.
How do you keep your team motivated, especially during challenging times?
I focus on individual motivation triggers. Not everyone is motivated by the same thing, some by recognition, others by learning or career growth. During a tough project rollout last year, I held weekly check-ins to celebrate small wins and asked team members what support they needed. I also recognized their efforts publicly during our department meetings. That not only lifted morale, but helped us stay on schedule and exceed our KPIs.
Tell me about a time you had to handle conflicts within your team.
Sure, I once had 2 senior staff members who disagreed about resource allocation for a client project. The tension started affecting the rest of the team. I brought them together privately to discuss the issue, making sure each person felt heard. Then we aligned their priorities with our organizational goals, focusing on what best served the client. After that, we established clearer communication channels and weekly alignment meetings. The conflict resolved, and both employees later collaborated successfully on multiple projects.
How do you handle an employee who isn't meeting expectations?
I always start by trying to understand why performance is slipping. Sometimes it's a skill gap. Other times, it's unclear expectations or personal challenges. In one case, a team member missed deadlines repeatedly. I scheduled a one-on-one, we discussed root causes, and I discovered they weren't confident using our new CRM system. I arranged extra training and set up short-term goals with feedback sessions. Within 6 weeks, their performance improved by 40%, and they became one of the top performers.
Describe how you lead your team through change.
I believe the key to leading change is communication and inclusion. When my company adopted a new digital workflow, I held a kickoff meeting explaining the why behind the change and how it aligned with our goals. Then I involved team leads in creating transition plans and encouraged feedback. That transparency reduced resistance, and we completed the rollout 2 weeks ahead of schedule with full adoption.
In your opinion, what makes a good leader?
A good leader listens more than they talk, sets a clear vision, and supports their team in achieving it. Leadership isn't about control, it's about influence and trust. I've found that when you treat people with respect and genuinely invest in their growth, they'll go above and beyond for the team and the organization.
Building trust is essential in leadership. How do you establish and maintain trust with your team?
I believe trust starts with consistency and transparency. I always follow through on what I say and communicate openly, even when the news isn't great. For example, during a budget cut, I shared the reality with my team instead of letting rumors spread. I explained the reasons behind decisions and invited suggestions on how to adapt. That honesty helped the team feel respected and valued, and we managed to maintain morale despite the changes.
Can you tell me about a time you had to make a tough decision that wasn't popular?
Yes, when I was managing a product team, I had to cancel a long-running project that several team members were passionate about because it no longer aligned with business priorities. Before announcing the decision, I gathered data on ROI and potential market impact to ensure it was the right call. I then held a team meeting to explain the reasoning, acknowledged everyone's effort, and reassigned resources to new, high-impact projects. It was hard at first, but the clarity and respect I showed helped maintain trust, and our new initiatives later outperformed projections by 25%.
How do you identify and develop leadership potential within your team?
I look for team members who show initiative, accountability, and curiosity. Once I spot that potential, I give them stretch assignments and opportunities to lead small projects. For example, I mentored one analyst by involving her in strategy meetings and coaching her on stakeholder communication. Within a year, she was promoted to a supervisory role and is now managing her own team. Developing future leaders is one of the most rewarding parts of my job.
Describe how you handled a crisis situation as a leader.
When our main supplier failed to deliver on time, our production line was at risk of shutting down. My first step was to stay calm and gather the facts. I quickly organized a crisis task force, delegated roles, and communicated updates every few hours to both the team and upper management. We found an alternative supplier within 48 hours and reorganized shifts to meet client deadlines. Staying composed and decisive under pressure helped the team stay confident and focused.
What's your approach to giving and receiving feedback?
For giving feedback, I follow the SBI method: situation, behavior, impact. It keeps feedback specific and objective. For example, in yesterday's meeting, situation, you interrupted a colleague twice, behavior, which made it hard for others to share ideas, impact. Then I discuss how to improve it constructively.
What steps do you take to ensure your team members are accountable for results?
I believe accountability starts with clarity. Everyone needs to understand what's expected and why it matters. I set SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, and review progress regularly. I also encourage team members to share their own progress updates during meetings, which builds ownership. When issues arise, I address them privately, focusing on solutions, not blame. This approach builds a culture where people take pride in their results.
Managers often face multiple priorities. How do you handle that?
I start by aligning all priorities with the organization's strategic goals. I use a simple framework: what's urgent versus what's important. If two high-priority tasks conflict, I communicate with stakeholders early to negotiate timelines or reallocate resources. For instance, when two major clients requested deliverables the same week, I analyzed ROI and client impact, then reassigned one project temporarily. By keeping communication open and data-driven, we met both clients' expectations without burning out the team.
How do you conduct performance reviews that are both fair and motivating?
I treat performance reviews as a two-way conversation, not a one-time judgment. I gather data from multiple sources: metrics, peer feedback, self-assessments, and focus on both achievements and areas for growth. During the review, I highlight specific examples and collaborate with the employee on setting future goals. I always end with a question like, "What support do you need from me to succeed?" That shifts the review from evaluation to empowerment.
Looking back, what leadership achievement are you most proud of?
At my last company, employee engagement was low, only 54% in our annual survey. I led an initiative to improve communication, recognition, and career development. We created mentorship programs, monthly recognition events, and more transparent feedback systems. Within a year, engagement rose to 82%, turnover dropped by 15%, and productivity increased by 20%. It showed me that strong leadership can transform not just performance, but workplace culture.
Leaders need to inspire others. How do you communicate your vision or strategy to your team?
I believe vision only works if people see themselves in it. When I present a new strategy, I start by connecting it to the team's daily work, explaining the why behind the goals. For instance, during a digital transformation project, I shared how the new tools would reduce manual work and create more opportunities for innovation. Then I asked for feedback and ideas. Once people understood their role in the bigger picture, their energy shifted from cautious to enthusiastic, and adoption rates reached 95% within a month.
How do you handle situations where your priorities or ideas differ from those of upper management?
Managing up is about alignment and respect. I focus on understanding leadership's priorities and presenting my ideas in terms of their goals. For example, I once disagreed with my director on cutting a training budget. Instead of pushing back emotionally, I gathered data showing the link between training and reduced turnover. I reframed my proposal as a cost-saving strategy. The budget was restored, and our retention improved by 12%. It reinforced that influencing leadership is about communication, not confrontation.
How do you promote diversity and inclusion in your team's culture?
Inclusion is more than hiring diverse people. It's about valuing every voice. I encourage open dialogue and make sure quieter members are heard during meetings. For example, I introduced a round-robin feedback format where each team member shares ideas before decisions are made. It brought new perspectives forward, and one of those ideas led to a successful client initiative worth $250,000. I also advocate for fair development opportunities, mentoring and training for all, not just high performers.
Can you share a time when you had to lead or influence others without direct authority?
When I was part of a cross-functional project team, I didn't have formal authority over the members. To gain buy-in, I built credibility through expertise and collaboration. I made sure to listen first, understand each stakeholder's priorities, and find common ground. Once trust was built, I used data and logic to make my case. As a result, the group unanimously adopted my proposal for process automation, saving the company about 200 staff hours per month.
Leadership can be stressful. How do you stay calm and focused under pressure?
I rely on 3 habits: prioritization, delegation, and perspective. When things pile up, I separate what's urgent from what's important, delegate where possible, and remind myself to focus on outcomes, not perfection. I also lead by example. If I stay calm, my team does too. During a system outage once, I gathered the team, set clear roles, and kept communication open every hour. We fixed the issue in half the projected time and received client praise for transparency.